What's going on? What's going on? Y'all know what time it is. It's not Monday. It's Wednesday. I know it's usually Monday when we do it, but it's Wednesday. It's another episode of Reentry Journey. I am your host, Cordell Sims. I appreciate everyone that's going to be tuning in tonight. And I'd like to bring our guests to the floor for tonight. Our guest on the floor and on the podcast tonight has been through, what we always been through, what I've been through, what a lot of us in the group has been through. It ain't been easy, but at the end, we find a way to persevere, strive, and we make it through, and we become better than what we were. So tonight, I'd like to welcome our guest for tonight, Miss Adena Harmon. Please introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Cardell, for having me this evening. Yeah, it's not Monday, it's Wednesday. Thank goodness we're just a few days away from the weekend. So I'm out of Fort Worth, Texas. I was born and raised in Dallas, and I own my own companies now. I have three, and I sit on several boards. And I also can say it hasn't been an easy journey, but it has been fun, and it has been a very learning opportunity for me. And I've met some really amazing people along the way. And I think once I got out of my own way, trying to have everything my way and in my own time, I'm here today, and I'm doing all kinds of crazy things, but having fun, and it's all legal. So what can I say? I'm not going back. So like I was telling Cordell, I I this was my first rodeo when I went down. My second time, I got it right that time. I was in federal prison. I didn't do state time. I did federal, and so I have no excuse other than, I wasn't on drugs. Um, I didn't rob a bank. I didn't do anything with guns. It was just me in my head getting my way. And I convinced myself, well, just this one time, if I do this, then, nobody will notice. And then the next thing I'm doing more, I saw someone do something and I said, okay, I'll cover for them. And then when the feds asked me about it, I was like, I don't think so. I don't know anything about it. And so one thing, it just started compiling, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger mess I was creating. And so when I first learned I was going to be indicted, I had to find an attorney. I didn't turn to my family because I was embarrassed and ashamed, and I thought, oh my gosh, what are my parents going to think of this? Because they didn't raise me to be that way. I was married at the age of 22 and had my daughter at the age of 23. And I went to college, and I went to a well-known school in Dallas, SMU, Southern Methodist University. And my background was in classical ballet and psychology. I went to work working with adolescents who were in the middle of leaving a hospital setting and going into their not well enough to go home, but not well enough or too well to be in the hospital. So we're kind of in between. So I worked at a residential treatment center with adolescents. Then I worked with unwed teenage mothers. And I'm one of those people who have a real hard time working for other people because I don't like somebody telling me what to do. So of course, I raised my hand, go to prison, and everybody tells me what to do.
Right.
Oh man, what was I thinking? But anyway,
You like nobody tell you what to do, and then you got the prison, and like you said, everybody's telling you what to do.
exactly. Eat, sleep, walk down the hall, put your hands to your side, don't talk, and all this kind of stuff. So, it was a very interesting experience. I When I did go back the second time, when I knew what it was all about, I actually planned from the day that I found out that I was being indicted to the day I got out. And so I knew that I was going to need money. I knew I wanted magazines sent to prison. I knew I wanted to have money on my books. So I planned it all out exactly what was going to happen when I was going to turn myself in. I would go to the marshal's office, turn myself in with my attorney, go to court, do all that stuff. And I entered the prison very well prepared. I had plenty of money on my books. I actually mailed myself my money orders ahead of time so they'd hit the jail and they'd be there when I got there. I walked in with some cash, not a whole lot because I knew that they would question it. So I wanted to keep a little bit, but I sent my money orders into myself, and then that money would follow me to the prison. And I also knew that I needed to start making a plan, that from the day I went in, that was my moment to start working my program that I created for myself, because they didn't really have anything for me. They said, well, you are educated, so there's no courses for you. You don't have a drug problem, so you can't join any of those groups. You can't do this, you can't do that. But I did have a very good job in prison. I worked in the education department, and I was also assigned to do what they call suicide watch. And so I did the documentation because I knew how to do that from working in Dallas. And so,
So did
um,
you work the suicide watch inside the prison
yes,
down there? Like down in was it in the segregation or was it in the medical unit?
it was in the medical unit. Suicide watch, usually, we never, when I was there, we never had more than 3 inmates in on suicide watch. And, part of it is they're butt naked on concrete. And so you have to be observant. We worked 4-hour shifts, and we, go in, and then somebody else would come in. I was one of the first ones that they had chosen to do this kind of work. They were testing it with the inmates to see. And so it was, paid $1 an hour. So that was better than my 37 cents an hour.
Gee,
So
a dollar an hour in prison. That's
that's
almost top of the line right there.
exactly, except for Unicor, they did
Yeah,
a lot better. So,
yeah.
but I never worked in Unicor because I was assigned immediately to education after my testing and everything. They said, "You're going to work in education." I said, "That's fine." And while I was there, I encouraged my boss, which was Miss Markham. I call her Miss Markham, but her name is Nina Markham. I encouraged her to think about some better education tools for my friends, because the women were my friends, and I wanted them to be prepared like better than they were when they came in.
Mm.
And so I said we need to have computers, and so I started a computer program at Carswell, and they brought in a teacher from the outside to come in and help because I wasn't supposed to do it all myself. I actually read the Microsoft manual so that I would understand when I got out that exactly what I needed to be able to do and how to operate. And so when I got out, I was more prepared than I was before I went in to be in the tech world. Um, so with that, it was very interesting to hear everybody go, "Well, do you go online?" No, we don't go online. But I taught Word Perfect, or no, I'm sorry, Word, not Word Perfect, that's so ancient, but Word and Excel spreadsheets, how to do PowerPoint, how to use Publisher. So those were fun. And then I ended up very sick and ended up in a wheelchair and couldn't understand what was going on with my body. And I turned out I had tuberculosis. And, that they totally misdiagnosed that one until I ended up in the hospital and I lost my right lung because they just didn't treat me. And I was very sick, and in between my fingers, I couldn't feel anything. My feet, I couldn't feel anything. So I had neuropathy, but it's because my immune system could no longer work to fight off the TB. The TB won. So ended up with TB, I got out of prison, and ended up on direct therapy, medication therapy, where the therapist comes to the house, the nurse comes to the house, administers my medication to me at my home. I mean, I was at the halfway house only 3 days because they didn't want me. Um,
They probably hurry up and got you up out of there. Like, nah, we don't
so
want to deal with all this.
yeah, it was too much trouble. I was in a wheelchair. I wasn't going to go get a job anytime soon, but I knew I had skills. And so when I did make it I ended up going to my parents' home instead of back to where I fell out of, which was in Oklahoma. And so I I stayed with my parents for about, oh, I don't know, 5 years. Ended up being 5 years by the time it was all said and done. They actually had to build an entry for me to come in and out of because I couldn't be around my mom who struggled with rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune disease. So anyway, we didn't want her to get sick, and so when I was out, my journey started. I just started writing and typing, And then uh, I started communicating with a guy from the synagogue that I belonged to, and this guy was a lawyer, and funny, and he offered me a job doing some ghostwriting, and so I did some ghostwriting for him and talked about my old life, and he actually used part of it in his book because I was a bulimirexic because of the years that I danced. And so when I was like 27, I weighed 97 pounds, which was just absurd,
Oh
just
wow.
because I was sick. I was like purging. And so I had this body image thing going on. So anyway, I was working for this guy. I mean, he was paying me 12 grand a month. And believe it or not, that really made my PO mad. She was very upset that I was making that kind of money writing.
Right.
so,
I mean,
and she was,
so but what do you think was the reason why? I mean, would you think maybe because you was making, she didn't really see that or expect that from you, and it was more than what she was making?
I think she told me that I needed to be out working a real job. She felt like writing, sitting at, being at home and writing wasn't a real job. So she brought me a list of jobs. And so when I called them, and like one of them was working for like AAA answering the phones. And I mean, I was going to make like 9 or 10 bucks an hour. And I was making 12,000 a month writing. I'm going, no. So I had to go over her head. So I was making enemies along the way, of course. So, you know,
Right.
so anyway, but all said and done, I discovered who I was, and part of that was I've always had a passion to help other people, and I just my volunteer when I would volunteer when I was before I ever got in trouble. I was a law book volunteer at the library, which were elderly adults who hadn't learned to read, maybe past the third or fifth grade, and so they wanted to learn to read. So that I took that job, volunteering and spending my Saturdays working with people. And I had this one lady. She was probably in her late 60s, which I thought was really old until just recently when I turned 60. But anyway, the only thing she wanted to do was to be able to read the Bible to her grandchildren. And believe it or not, she found me not too long ago on Facebook and sent me a picture of her great grandchildren and how she's reading to them. And she actually learned to read scriptures and understand them because she was always heard about scripture, learned from, when she would go to church with her family, but she didn't read the Bible. She wanted her kids on her lap. And so it was fulfilling. And I knew that there was always something there for that. So when I got out and was writing, and then I started going, wait a minute, I had this idea. And so next thing I know, I don't write code. I'm not a coder or a developer, but I have tons of ideas. So I just started keeping a journal of my ideas. And now I have a patent on the wall and a US patent, and I've got more than that actually, but that was my first one. And everybody told me I'd never get a patent for my idea. And then they said, oh, well, you won't get a second one. Oh, you won't get a third one. I have 15 international patents and 5 or 6 now regular patents, state patents. And I've got 2 more in the hopper. So, so
So
anyway, but
I was always wondering if you could patent ideas. So how did you go about patenting your ideas? I mean,
well, I had to prototype them.
okay,
So I had to, and that was the other part of it. I didn't have the money to develop this technology that I thought would be useful. So I had to go out and I had to write a business plan. I had to, do my own research, and I'm really good at research. So I was able to go through and find out, what this guy did with his technology, what this guy did, how mine's different and mine's better than what they're doing. Because you have to show your claims and everything. I could have paid an attorney, which I ended up doing later, but attorneys cost money, as we all know. Patent attorneys filing those fees with the government costs money. And
yeah,
so I went out and I heard so many no's. And I think that I figured it out. It was like 73 no's to every yes. And so when I figured that out to a dollar amount, the last guy is a doctor. And when I pitched him my idea and told him, I said, look, we're going to take an image and add audio, and it's not going to be a video. Because everything that you do, if you add audio to an image, you have to save it as a video file until now. So we save it as a chip, which is known as a See Here intelligent file. And so people can put anything they want into a data container. And I say like it's like a real thing, but it's not. It's just you merge this, put this, and blend this, and blend this. And they're each encrypted. So if I only want you to read this part, and then I need this person, this group over here to have this information, even though it's all in one, it can be allocated to who it needs to go to, who has, that to go. So when I figured it out and got the patent, he believed in me, and this was a complete stranger. And I pitched him, and he said, I'm going to pay for your patent. And so he put $100,000 into me. He's now put over $500,000 into me, and he gave me my vaccine because he said he didn't want me to die anytime soon. So I was like, okay, I'll take the vaccine. So my husband and I both had the vaccine. So
Right. So I got a friend. He just got out of federal prison. He got some prototype on a exercise equipment machine right now. He just don't know how to go about patenting. He just got out of prison. He's still in the halfway house right now. He doesn't have the funds to really pay for no patents. And so, what steps would you recommend for him to take to move forward with his idea?
there's two things. I think first off, he needs to look online to see if that is every word that you can think of to describe whatever that you have created. Type it in the quick search on the patent website, on the U.S. patent website, and see if anybody else is doing something similar. Read what they do. You don't have to read the whole entire thing because, like ours is, I think we've got one that's 313 pages. It's pretty long because we have to supply drawings, all of that. So I would say do some research first. But in the meantime, also be looking at the business side of it because you're going to need a business plan. How are you going to roll this out? How are you going to bring your idea to full fruition? And so, like with me, I didn't know how to write a business plan. That wasn't my background. So what I did was I reached out to people around me and said, look, we can form this company, and we did. And my dad put up a little bit of the money, helped us along the way, in the very beginning. And so he believed in it. And when the lawyer told me what he thought the value of it was, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for somebody to make an offer. I will have a big house and not be in the big house, you know. So,
Right.
but yeah, feel free to have him reach out to me. And so, like you had Michael, I can't think of his last name, with Track Tech on.
Yeah, Michael Hirschman.
Yeah, so I met with him after that and reached out to him because I had some ideas because that was one of the things that we talked about when I was in prison. Why do we have to wear an ankle monitor? Why do we have to do, what else can we do? And so we actually started brainstorming ideas, and one of them was, some technology, and it didn't exist back then. And
All right.
so
Yeah,
anyway,
he has a really good. I think that's really good. Track Tech is
hmm
the app. I think one of the things is trying to get the app or the probation and parole or
hmm
to really get the you know. I mean, they can put it on their phones, but a lot of people get out and they can't get phones.
no,
Um, I I have one thing I really been working on and I really want to do is something similar, but it's not like a tracking app. It's basically a reentry, like I got the reentry support group.
hmm
It's a reentry support app to where I want to basically, if you get out of prison, you be able to go to this app, find the resources in your area, find mentors in your area,
hmm
and have it'll be daily motivational videos, uh, maybe Q&A. If you got any questions, you can type them in and get back with you and everything. Like it's just an idea that I got. I don't really know what steps to take to. I don't know nothing about no app making or anything of that nature. So
you're
yeah,
talking to the right person.
yeah.
So,
And so in the beginning you said that you tried this thing one time. It was wrong. You
mhm.
said, okay, I'll just do it one time and then that's it. but you end up doing it more and more. What do you think drove you to do it more and more, and didn't stop after that one time?
I think it was I like the fact that I got away with something. And I know that sounds really lame and really, it's very selfish because it fed something that I was missing. And to figure out what that is, it took me some time to figure out what was missing. And it was, I really didn't like me. And so something that gave me this, oh, this is, oh, wow, kind of feeling. Because I'd gone from bulimia. I mean, I was on stage with the ballet. I, went to college and did all this other stuff and worked with kids, worked with adults, and it wasn't, it just didn't, nothing connected. And yet I also knew that I loved to be around people and work with people. But when I did that thing, I mean, I'm watching this show on serial killers, and I'm going, I can almost understand that. Oh, that was, not that I would kill someone, but I'm just saying that that little bit of feeling that you get from, it's almost like a high. You're of course you're everything's going. You're creating some endorphins are really firing off right then. But I think it was I didn't like myself, and so I got something that felt good. I mean, some people use booze, some people use drugs, some people use sex. I used crime, because I thought, oh, okay, that felt good, but then I felt ashamed, and so then I had to, I wanted to, oh, I don't want to feel like that, so then I do something again, and so and I knew it was wrong, the whole time I knew it was wrong, and that's what made it even.
It's just that feeling that knowing it's wrong, and I got away with it.
Mhm.
Wow, right. That's
So it's like I don't know if you ever read this book, or people may have. It's called Good Girls Gone Bad. I don't even know if they publish it anymore. Um,
I haven't
I
read it.
okay. So, I mean, I don't think you would want to read it, but
Yeah,
I,
I was read, someone in the group might
yeah,
might have read it. Yeah.
yeah. So it was written back in the '80s, and it took me some time to find it because I heard a therapist in prison talking about me and to another person, and she goes, "She's a good girl gone bad," and because I have no excuse for what I did other than I really think I just didn't like myself. And it took me some time to work through that. And that book pretty much, there's a couple of the people in the book that I go, oh, I can relate to that, because there's really no excuse. I wasn't abused as a child. I had education, I had food, I traveled, I did so much, but something was missing, and part of that, I was married to an attorney in when I first, I mean, I put him through law school. I worked 2 jobs. He went to law school. I was supposed to go to med school if, after he got his practice started, but that didn't work out. He married, he started dating some young chick, somebody a lot younger than me. But I think I was just like 28. He was going younger than that. So, but I didn't end up liking myself. And so I really felt a lot of disgust with myself. And then, when I did that, I was like, oh, okay. So,
Mm. And so you going into prison like in the environment I grew up in. We have this belief, and it still exists in environments that going to prison solidifies you being a man.
mhm.
It solidifies your street cred. And so it was kind of like we was expected to go to prison sometime in our lives. Like, you're going to go to. I mean, this is the mentality and the belief that we had. And you saying that you come from an opposite background. So when you went into prison first day, what was your thoughts? What was going through your
It was, oh shit.
head?
I'll be real honest. It was, oh shit. What did I do? And then I thought, okay, so I'm going to treat this like I'm doing research so that I could, I kind of separated my thinking so that I treated it like this is research time to understand who I am in this world. And I knew that I wasn't any different than anyone else there. And when I would hear some of the women's stories, I just felt, oh my gosh, I just wanted to wrap my arms around them and just hug them and tell them it's going to be okay. That there is a brighter side because I'd seen it, but I'd never felt it, you know. So I think that when I got there, I wasn't frightened. I wasn't afraid of anyone. I just remember this one woman wasn't in the county jail as I was waiting transfer. It was once I hit the prison yard. She walked over to me, and we had those um, tacky little brown sandal things that we had to wear, flip flops. And she goes, "I want to see your toenails," and I had on white socks. I go, "What?" She goes, "I just want to see what kind of person you are." I thought, "Who is this person?" And so I was like, "Okay, I'll show her my toenails." I don't know what this means, but so she wanted to see my toenails, and she said that she goes, "Okay, so you're okay. You take care of yourself." Um, so it was like I was having to go through these little tests, you know.
Oh wow,
So
that's
I mean,
I never heard of that one before. Let me see your
neither.
toe.
So I was like,
Let me take your toenails out.
she wanted to see if they were painted, if I, how long I'd been in county, because you could tell, was she, what kind of deals was she making, at the county jail to get makeup in, or, back then it was cigarettes. I didn't smoke. So, I was always looking for, I need perfume and I need lotions and I need those kind of things. And I'd try to find an officer to bring that into me. But, but no, I wasn't frightened. I just knew that I was going to treat this as an opportunity to learn. Even the first time, but then when I got out, I got around some people, and because then I was now nobody wanted to be my friend, nobody, from my old life, and I'm like, okay, so they're all talking about me, so big deal, I can make this, and I actually cashed a check for someone, and turned out he had stolen the check, and so then my name comes back up, and so then at this point I'm going, wow, so what the heck, and so then when I saw my boss doing something wrong and I didn't turn her in, and then the feds came to me and asked me about it, and I lied. And so now whoops, I've got a little obstruction going on there, lying to the feds. But I knew they were lying to me, and my mind is, if they're lying to me, it's okay for me to lie. And
Right.
so I had to work through that. So I used the prison time as a time to learn about who I was. And I'm still learning today. So it's
Right.
it's always a process.
So you said when you got there, it was kind of like they was it was like you had to go through a whole bunch of tests.
Yeah.
Um, in in the men's federal prisons, we have we have cars. In the women's federal prison, do they have cars as well? Like
What is it?
cars. We call them cars. Like so in the men's federal prison, this is how most of the men's federal prison run. You got the cars. So you got the whites, the blacks, Mexicans, Asians, natives. You got these five groups. You got these five cars. Within the cars, you have your own. You got your own cliques. So, like, let's say in
Mm-hmm.
the blacks, you might have the Muslim car. Then you
Mm-hmm.
might have, like I was in Leavenworth, so you had a Kansas City car. Then you had a East Coast car. Then you might had a down south car, and so you had these different cliques. Is it like that? Was it like that in the women's federal prison?
Well, I think it was. I didn't associate really with any group. I was part of the Jewish community. So there was only like six of us, and so
Right.
we were a very small group. And I also was worked in education. So I grew up, just a little bit about my background or my early childhood. I'm a daughter of the civil rights. My parents marched with Martin Luther King. They were We had a burning cross in our front yard at one point when I was growing up.
Oh
Our
wow.
house got messed up many times because my mother was raised by a woman of color, Mama Nell, and um, my mother's mother, my real grandmother, my biological grandmother, was a model for Vogue, a still model, and so they would just draw her, basically in these clothes. And she left my mom, so she was raised by a woman of color, Mama Nell. And so Mama Nell lived with us until we were, I think she passed away right before my daughter was born. So she was with us for a really long time. And so I grew up very different than just the kids in my neighborhood. My parents intentionally moved to an area in Texas that was so racist that they got it. My parents were in your face people. And Mom and Nell got arrested for driving after 6 p.m. in the small town. it was an all-white town. My parents intentionally moved there to show we're not going to be like this. We're going to integrate, and this segregation stuff has got to stop. And so I grew up going over to churches of color, and our church, I didn't grow up in the Jewish faith. My mother was born Jewish, but she didn't practice Judaism because she was in that where I grew up. There weren't any synagogues, so she joined the Methodist Church, and she was
Right.
part of a group of people who stood up for civil rights. And so we went to lock-ins. We did all that kind of stuff. So I always felt comfortable being with people of any background. It didn't matter to me. And I was never scared of anybody. And so, I mean, I think that I could walk in and I'm sure that I could walk in somewhere and somebody, maybe try to make me feel threatened or something, trying to, do that to me. But I don't feel that way. I always feel safe with people. And so I try to live my life in love. And so I'm actually I'm taking a human rights course right now through the Institute of Human Rights Consulting. And so, because I think that to honor my parents for all the work that they did, my parents actually to this day now, there's actually people of color living in that town that we grew up in. But when we got there, the people of color lived near the railroad tracks, near the lumber yard, and the kids were not allowed to public school. So, and they couldn't own homes in that town. So my dad and the pastor of the church and a couple other men of the church would get together late at night and go meet these realtors, and they would buy houses. And then they would sell the houses to the people of color because the other real estate people wouldn't do it.
Oh,
So, so we actually, by the time I graduated from high school, I think we had two people of color graduating with us out of, I think it was like 1,100. And so it's still a long ways to go, but today it's not that way. I mean, they intentionally would, back then in the 60s, were to vote not to have public transportation. And so, because they knew that people would need transportation to and from this part of outside of Dallas to get to Dallas.
yeah.
And so, anyway, but it was, I always felt okay around people. So I didn't really feel the clicks, but I knew that I was part of a Jewish community, and people would say, "Y'all get to have macaroons. Can you get me some?" And I, when I was in the county jail waiting to go to prison, waiting for my trial, my hearing, I pled guilty. I'm not going to lie. I knew I was wrong. And so one of the things I did was I told everybody that, what we have to do, because we know there's people coming in here with drug problems. We know people are coming in here that are just really depressed. And we know people are going to come in here that would rather steal, but they don't really want to steal, but they want something. And I said, so all of us with money, I put us all together, and I said, look, we're going to buy extra toilet tissue because, that's like gold. And we're going to buy some chocolate for the people coming off the drugs, we're going to buy some toothbrushes better than what they offer, when you come in. Give them some make somebody feel like they matter, because coming in there is a hard place anyway. And if you're already down and out, there's got to be a better way. So we had baskets that we would put together until we got caught giving baskets to people, so that no matter who came in that prison, they were given something by somebody. And so, that's just, I just love people. I don't know what to tell you.
So you go back to prison. What was that feeling like?
The ultimate shame, and well deserved. But I hung my head down, but I also knew that I knew what I was up against. So I planned out. I knew that I had to plan my day of release the day I walked in. So
I'm gonna need you to repeat that. Could you repeat that
yeah,
again?
I knew I planned my day okay. I planned my life, and I planned for the day that I was to be released. Everything I did was planned to be for my release. That I wasn't going to get in trouble. I was going to take every opportunity I could to learn something. I was going to take every opportunity to give back to people. And I was going to take every, if they said, you need counseling, Adina, okay, I'll sign up for it. They would say, Adina, you need this. I'd sign up for it, but I planned my I planned my release the day I walked in. So
Right.
that's, so I knew that I was prepared. But once again, I knew what I was up against. And I also knew that I even fell lower than I did before because everybody from the town that I fell out of, they had nothing to do with me. They disliked me. They thought I was scum of the earth. And I made some friends. And today it's really interesting. I'm actually friends with some of the staff members. I am friends with a lot of the former inmates that I did time with. Actually have some come visit. We text each other during the holidays and, how are you doing? Just checking in on you. We help each other. Got one that actually invested, or two that have invested in my company. And so we're there for each other. And I wouldn't have had those friendships like that I consider real versus the ones that I had before that were always expecting me to be, hi, how you doing? Yeah, yeah. These I could get down and be real with and talk about it, So
So you get out after the second time. You on a mission. What
mhm.
was some of the biggest challenges that you faced once you got out the second time?
My probation officer didn't like me at all. I mean, she told me that I was a waste of her time. That
Wow.
well, because I was living at my parents' home at that time, but I had been sick, and she said that where she needs to be focused in is on another section across town where people are really violating, but she has to come out here and waste her time on me. And my parents' home was nice. Again, I mean, it, there was like a different. She treated me like because I had stuff. I had family that had money, a little, But of course, my parents did not support me through prison. They were not going to support me through prison. You did this to yourself. My father, oh my gosh, I thought he was going to get kicked out because he came in there ranting and raving, cussing me out left and right, and
He came
I
into the he came into the prison.
oh yeah, he was ready to bust my face in. I was ready, oh, how could you do this? So, but he goes, we didn't raise you like this, and and of course, then I tried even crazier stuff because, I just it was crazy. I mean, the whole experience with my dad first, and my mom came to visit, and my dad lost his mind on me, and I had to come over and ask him, "Is everything okay, sir?" And he was like,
Right.
"No, it's not. Look, she's here."
Yeah.
Anyway,
He was upset. He was yeah.
oh yeah, his little girl, the only
You're
girl.
right.
So
Yeah.
that,
And and like even when now when I look back on it, like when I talk to my mom, because now really honestly I'm going through similar situations that I took my mom through with my oldest son. Like
mm,
he's incarcerated right now, and I
mhm,
got another son that he does some things, and I mean that could this can lead you to prison. This can lead you locked up. And some of the things you look back and now with technology and stuff like that, so stuff travels real fast and it gets
mhm,
back to you real fast. What your kids is doing and things like that, and they're grown, but at the same time, you be like, man, this is embarrassing. And I look back on that, and I used to think like, man, some of the stuff I was doing, I'm like that was. I'm pretty sure my mother then was embarrassed, like seeing me on the news and in the
mhm,
newspaper, and a lot of stuff that I had gotten into, and because in the sense it's a reflection of them. So he, he your father, your parents probably most likely was hurt, but
mhm.
embarrassed at the same time
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
oh yeah, they were embarrassed. They didn't have anybody to talk to about it. None of their friends' kids went to prison. Nobody else in my family had been to prison, except I do have a cousin that likes to get drunk and get DUIs. And he was the one that went to prison. No one else had been in trouble. And I was the oldest of the grandchildren, and everybody, kind of looked up, to me and my brothers because my dad was the oldest of the in his family. my mother was an only child, so there wasn't that side of it. But it was my grandmother came to visit me, when I was incarcerated, and I could just see it just pained them. And I remember my mother's very endowed, and so she wore a bra that had the underwires in it. And so when they were, doing this, it kept going off. And her hair, she had all these hairpins because she had her hair up all pretty and everything. And she was humiliated. And I thought I did that to my mom. And it took me some time to look at my parents, and now they're really proud of me, because I have come a long ways. I am doing what my passion is, and my passion, is that we develop digitally accessible tools for people with disabilities, and so and then I'm building a Bible app, with a group of pastors here in my town, and I sit on several boards, some in California, for people that are amputees and people with, with disabilities. And so they're adaptive sports organizations. So anyway, but that's what I do now. And so I think my dad's really proud of me because I'm CEO of not one company, but a couple. I'm a managing partner of another. And so he's proud of me. So I'm happy I did that right now. 'Cause I get to see this part. So.
This is the redemption.
Mhm,
And that it remind you said one of your biggest obstacle was saying your PO, and we know a lot of people get out of prison. That's be their biggest obstacle as
mhm,
well, especially those who want to pursue into entrepreneurship, or luckily my PO when I got out the last time, um, they really were into what I was doing, speaking, sharing my story, writing books and
mhm,
things of that nature, and they really pushed me towards that, even to the point where they would have me go and speak to the pretrial people that maybe just got locked up as on pretrial,
mhm.
but a lot of people that don't happen with and their PO becomes like their the biggest person holding them back. How did you overcome? What did you have to do to get past the PO being that big person that's holding you back, that was against you?
Well, she had recommended that I go back to school. And I'm going, okay. And so I applied for a, a community college just to go get a certificate in medical, because I know medicine. I've worked in the, on the side, like, psychiatry. So I went up to the community college, and I thought, well, if I'm taking courses, going to school, she's off my back. I don't have to be working. And I am making money, so she can't really balk about that. But I did pay my taxes because I was self-employed, and so when I got through, I went down, and it's crazy because she was horrified that this happened. But I went down to our hospital, our county hospital, and I applied for a job, and I took their test, and I scored higher than anyone has ever scored, and I had the fastest typing. I was 121 words a minute, and
Oh,
I did all this other stuff, and they did, can you do this? Can you do that? Well, they had me to become the executive secretary to the chief of staff of the hospital, of the county hospital of Dallas.
wow.
And they said, we want you to come in here. They took me places in the hospital that and I kept thinking, well, don't they know I'm on probation? I mean, my PO is going to show up here. And they go, well, here's his credit cards, and you'll be taking care of that. And so I looked at the guy towards the end, and I said, now, you do realize that I'm on probation, right? And you could have heard a pin drop. And
Wow.
after that, they said, I'm sorry, but you can't work here. And I said, but you say that you hire people with, ex-felons. He goes, well, not for a job like this. And I said, but you're the one that put me here. I was willing to fold laundry and, do something like that because I knew that I wasn't to be in that position. I qualified, I was overqualified, but, they didn't want me anymore. And so they actually blackballed me. So when my name came up for any time I applied for anything, it was automatically, it would never go through. And so when my PO found out, she made a couple of calls, and they said she's too smart to work over here. She can't work over here because we can't let her have access to that kind of information and that much money and this and this and this. So she kind of had a wake up call at that moment, that she saw my struggle. And so she got quiet and let me do it. And then when I started dating the man I'm married to now, Butch, we were actually high school sweethearts and we went our separate ways. But I said, well, I want to go to Fort Worth and, see him. Can I do that? And she was like, well, you got to be back by this time, let me have the address. And so then, staying over and doing all this other stuff. And, you can't do this, you can't do that. And so, I waited a while before I even told him that I'd been in trouble because I didn't know I was going to take it because I wasn't the girl to do that, But anyway, I finally told him and he goes, and it was okay. And so we're married to this day. Another reason we got married, I'll be real honest, neither one of us wanted to get married again. But we just wanted to be together. Because first off, I was just had turned 50 and he had just turned 51. And so we were like, nah, we don't get married. He was getting divorced and now I'm wife number 5. So, let's go okay. But I put on the patent, I used his last name and I said, so if I get this patent, then we will get married because I put Harmon on there. And so when the patent came through, I said, we got to legitimize our kid in there. So we name our patents. So I named them Patrick and Patty and Patricia and, all these names. And we got married. And so we did that. It's been a good thing. We're here for each other forever. And so, anyway.
So if somebody getting out of prison today,
Mhm.
what advice would you give them?
Change your playground. I know that's hard, and sometimes it's even your own family members, but you got to be kind of selfish and ask yourself, do I want to live that life that I was living to end up where I ended up? And the second thing would be get all the training the state and the feds will allow you to have because your mind, your education is something no one can take away except for maybe Alzheimer's or dementia, but no one can take that away from you. And believe in yourself because you survived something that most people have a real hard time doing. And getting out to this side of it and looking back and asking yourself, is that what I want? Or do I want to take all the dreams that I dreamed and make it big? And I always tell people, I never wanted, when I was a little girl, I didn't say, oh, I can't wait to grow up and go to prison. I said to myself, I want to grow up and be somebody. I want to do all these things that my parents were doing, being good people, being a good person and doing right. And so I have to step back and ask myself that, even when I get that little, oh, that, no, you don't want to do that. So, because it will rear its head because it's fascinating because there's like more stuff I could get in trouble with as far as technology, because, I could probably hack something if I wanted to, but I'm not going to, because I don't want to, I'm not going to, go down that road.
We don't want you to do that.
No, no.
You know?
So I really would take advantage of everything the feds and the state have to offer you. And don't feel guilty about it because there's plenty of people out there that are going to stand in your way. And the better you're equipped to face them, then the better you are going to be on the other side of walking past them. And, I always look for ways to collaborate with people, like what you're doing. And I think what you're doing is amazing. And I think you're probably changing some lives. And, when people hear other people's story, they go, oh, yeah, if she can do it, I can do it. And I think sharing the story, and that's what I said, before we started, I've got people that don't even know that I went to prison. And so I'm like, okay, so maybe they'll find out at some point, and it'll have to be okay because, it's not who I am today, but all that made me a better person. And today I'm creating technology that's going to impact children who or dyslexic, or to someone who is blind, or someone who can't hear, or someone who is a quadriplegic, or that's what I'm doing today, and it's going to change it's going to change people's lives and make it better, and I kind of want to go out with that on my you know on my chest, I did something that made a positive difference for someone else. So
Right. Two more questions.
okay.
One is one word that describes that would describe your journey. One word that would define your journey.
Perseverance.
Mm, okay. And then also, how is important it is. I always tell people when you get out to get involved in something where you
Hmm.
serve. How important is it to serve?
It's 100% important to serve, because once you get outside your own self and you're giving back to or giving to other people, you are actually built. You're actually probably every cell in your body is being fed love, and a lot of times that's what we're missing and we don't even know it. We lack that respect, that because we thought, oh, I, if I just don't get caught, we didn't have respect for ourselves when we did, or I didn't have respect for myself when I would do what I did, and um, so I would think that it's 100%. It makes a difference when you serve other people, and that's, and I can't even, it's just important. I've always believed in that. I was raised to serve other people, and I tell my husband, I never even went trick or treating as a child. We trick or treated for UNICEF because we knew there were children in the world that weren't going to have apples and all this fruit from the harvest, and you know, so if we went out and raised money in our cute little costumes, and brought it back to the church, and knew that it was going to help other people, that's something you can do, even with, and you don't have to do it alone. You can find something that your spouse likes, your girlfriend likes, your boyfriend likes, your children like, and teach them to be a service so they don't get caught in this trap that, so many of us get caught in.
Right. So the journey from inmate to entrepreneur, prison to patents,
Yeah, there you go.
prison to patents. I really enjoyed the story. I really enjoyed your journey. Learned so much, but I also see some similarities between our own personal journeys. Thank you for being a guest on the Reentry Journey podcast. I'm hoping that maybe we can collab later on down the future. Anything that you need help with, or maybe whatever, reach out to us. I'm always be available. I'm always going to be open to do something positive, to do something that can grow. And like I said, I really enjoyed the story. I want to thank you again for being a guest. Um, feel free to, you in the group, so feel free to drop any information or any knowledge or just any uplifting words of encouragement on a daily basis in the group. We really would appreciate it. Once again, thank you for coming on. I really enjoyed your story and your journey.
Well, thank you, Cordell. Thank you for everyone who's listening. And I will actually put some information in there. And I also would like for you to reach out to your friend who's still at the halfway house. And if he's working on his patent, I'll share with him what I've, my little journey on that, and give him some advice.
All
So
right, thanks a lot.
thank you.
All right, bye bye.
Bye bye.